can get started. So our webinar, as we're getting started, we are going to chat all things Oris, Rolf Studer, and you guys all know me. So basically, Rolf, I'd love to hear from you. What's going on with Oris overall. I know you have a watch launch today, so I want to talk about that. What's the sort of recent things that have been happening with Oris, and then we'll and I'd definitely like to talk about the new watch because I think the response to that has been pretty positive today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, everybody. Nice to have you here. Yeah, it's tough times for everyone, and I guess especially if you're in the watch business, it's even tougher. In Switzerland, we have halted production on the one side because we can't guarantee 2 meters of distance for our employees. On the other side, because there is simply not enough demand at the moment to keep a full production up and running. We have a lot of people in home offices, and around the world, people within our teams are at home. First signs of relief in Asia, in China. 2 weeks ago, we had the best week this year. And last week, we had the second best week. That was good. But basically, it's very difficult. And yeah, you're setting yourself up, Adam, I see.
Shoes here, so all good. Trying to get this sorted. Oh, we're good. Sorry, keep going.
And yeah, today we had a very special thing. Actually, we launched a watch digitally. We pre-launched actually a watch because in these times we were in touch with people on Zoom all the time, and what they asked for was, please give us something new, please give us a mini Basel, please give us something exclusive, and that's what we did today. And we launched our collaboration with Momotaro, the watch that maybe some of you have been part of that this afternoon, the watch that comes in this denim pouch from Okayama, Japan. It also comes on a denim strap. Like that, with, I think, a very cool turquoise style. That's what we launched today to, yeah, around 1,000 people on Zoom. We sent that invitation yesterday. We then had to up our subscription with Zoom because the spaces filled up very quickly. So yeah, that's the things you do in these days. And yeah, I hope that you make it through. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, I really love the new piece. I think it's great, and it's good to hear that you had. I think that's a really good problem for you to have. You have to up your Zoom subscription because you had so many people that wanted to share that moment with you. So that's really great to hear. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the Local Heroes initiative that you guys are doing, that you guys have been doing. I really think that's great, and I think it's really nice to see you guys always engage with the community, and as a brand, you're always very engaged with people. But I really would like to talk a little bit more about like how you came up with that idea, and some of the the heroes that you guys have been highlighting, because I think this is it's a great initiative to have us all kind of focus on these people that are out there on the front lines, and making it so that we can still kind of live our lives. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, when you find yourself in that situation of a lockdown and of just a halted world, you think about how do we stay in touch with our community, right? And so it's a new situation, and you think about many things, from drawing contests to I don't know what, cooking classes. But we said we want to do something that's really within the values of the Oris brand. And at Oris, yeah, we are independent, we think independently, we act independently, we want to make a difference. and we are the brand for the guy who works for his money, for these people out there, just for regular people. We are not the champagne life kind of brand, right? And our people are exactly these people who make a difference out there, who are still there, and who keep things up and running and help the ones who need it most. And these people we wanted to honor and give them a platform, give them recognition, and finally also give them an Oris watch. And that's what we did. And also there we were really overwhelmed by the reaction. First, we had planned to give away 10 watches. Then we saw that there were so many applications coming in, so we enlarged it to 50 watches, had now over 1,000 applications, husbands naming their wives, sons naming their fathers, really heartwarming stories. And of course, we're going to get back to them all on a personal level, but we honor 50 people with watches that hopefully reminds them for the rest of their lives of the heroes they were to all of us.
What a wonderful initiative.
Yeah, it's really great. And I think it's nice to share the stories and we all, here in New York, every night at 7 o'clock, there's people cheering the healthcare workers, and, they're doing that in many other cities worldwide. But there's some of the heroes you guys chose to highlight are not, not necessarily, there's a lot of healthcare workers in there, but there's, regular people that are out there, cleaners and people who are just, working in stores that are still open, essential businesses, things like that. I think it's really nice to highlight some of those people too, because we obviously we know the healthcare workers are on the front line, but there's also, the grocery store people that are, that are making it so that we can go and get our food and stay home and stay healthy during this time. So I think it's really great that you guys were highlighting a lot of those people. So yeah, it's great, and it's nice to see their faces and have Oris Bear out there championing them. I also really I like the drawings you guys had for Oris Bear. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well? I'm a big fan of Oris Bear, but I really think a little cartoon Oris Bear washing his hands is a really nice a nice way to remind people of all those things, and the work from home setup that Oris Bear had and all that. What was the genesis of that? Was I think I know you just want to bring a smile to people's faces, but can you tell us a little bit more about that and the artist that was that's doing the drawings?
Yeah, well, these are not times to sell watches, right? These are times to take care of the community, to, as you say, to make people smile, and just to give them a few moments of relief, of other thoughts, and nothing more comforting than a bear, and nothing more comforting than the Oris Bear. And we just thought he could be our guide through these times, and that's why we developed him into this story that we have showed on Instagram now for the last 2 weeks. And so far we had him mostly in 3 dimensions, right? And we were a bit hesitant to bring him to 2 dimensions. He's on the Oris Cup, but otherwise you don't see him that often. We tried before, but it was always, we weren't so happy, and now we had to be quick. So we asked the artist from Basel who paints our bears if she could do that. We weren't so happy with the result. We asked somebody else. We were even less happy. We got back to her, said sorry, sent her a bunch of flowers. We know you can do it. Just a little bit more like this or that, and that's it. So the person who paints Oris Bears in the 4th floor of our Basel boutique is also the person who paints the Oris Bear cartoons.
Oh, that's great.
Well, some nice continuity there. But you answered my question, actually. I thought to myself, there's no way that this initiative took off so quickly. You must have already had this Oris Bear cartoon series, and then, you know, it planned, and then just sort of adapted it to the current crisis. And in fact, you guys really did just jump out there, all hands on deck, and say, you know what, Oris Bear has a job to do now. Let's get him on the front lines. And, you know, it's funny because Kathleen, I didn't even think about this the other day. Like the people I've been thinking about, I'm trapped in Connecticut right now with my family. It's horrible. And we haven't gone anywhere in almost 5 weeks now. And we're not even going to see, we're having everything delivered. And it's funny because I look at the UPS guy and the FedEx guys, I see them coming up and down the driveway, and I think to myself, there's some heroes right there. Like you said, it obviously the frontline workers, the people, nurses, the doctors, but you know, the guys that are keeping, and the women who are keeping this country moving, and the world on a business level too. You know, it's you know, I wish we could give everybody a watch.
Yeah, I wish so too. You're right, and it's the everyday man that really makes the difference. And we're really happy about the response we got. Also from, or especially from the US, we got some very nice contributions to it. Yeah, I'm sure VJ can say something about that also. He has found ways to even expand the story beyond Instagram. VJ, maybe you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, the bear has been, you know, he's always been part of our who we are, and in this time, putting him to obviously very good use, sending messages and for people. And, you know, we've been, we're going to actually run some things with him, honoring someone up in Boston whom we're going to run an advertising with him, just showing off a local hero that's local, and someone that is really doing something. It's a firefighter who's helping the community, helping his family, helping his wife who has cancer, that sort of thing. So we're going to be doing that pretty upcoming soon. Yeah, and just, you know, we've been putting them out there, and everyone's been enjoying it. So it's really nice to see. So.
Yeah, I think it's nice for you to be able to, you know, like I said, it's, you know, we're highlighting the local heroes, but you're also putting a smile on everybody's face with the bear. So I think that's great. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we've you know, done in the past with you guys. In the London boutique, I want David to maybe talk about that a little bit. We, you know, obviously RedBar has had a long relationship with Oris, and we'll talk about, you know, the watch collaboration we did in a little bit, but which many of us are wearing currently. But I, you know, I want to talk a little bit about some of the events we've done with you guys, specifically in the London boutique, which is one of the few standalone Oris boutiques in the world. And so David, maybe you can speak to that a little bit about some of the stuff we've done.
Yes, certainly. I think Rolf will correct me if I'm wrong, but it must be nearly a year and a half now since the London boutique opened, maybe slightly longer. And you know, it was one of the first few true Oris unique standalone boutiques in the world. And you guys very kindly kind of involved RedBar from day one, really, in the opening of that boutique. And we've now had, I don't know, it must be ranging on probably 7 to 10 events now we've had with you guys, where I know that when we run these in RedBar London, we get huge numbers of our members, way more people than you can fit in your store, to come along to these events, and it usually ends up spilling into a bit of a street party outside. I think it's, you know, Oris is a brand that really has a kind of connection with a lot of our members, and to the point where we've even got members that, you know, some of you guys know, like I know Kathleen knows Samantha, for example, who, you know, was going on a big holiday last year to Australia, and she decided she wanted a watch that she could take with her that would survive the holiday, but she would remember it, and Oris was the watch that she went for, and she loves that piece to death. So, you know, there's a real good connection, as I say, and the events we do with you guys, I think we look forward to when we get past all of this and we can actually go back out and meet each other again, that it will be good fun. And I know that you've graciously come over on many occasions to drink lightly with us, I think is a polite way to put it, rather than getting very drunk, which is probably more accurate.
Okay. Just like to hang out with you guys, and yeah, I like having a few beers, talking watches, and that's always a lot of fun in London. So yeah, I very much enjoy these events that we have. They always have to bring a sweater because, as you say, true English way, at the end we always hang out in front of the boutique drinking beers, and it's not always that warm in London. So yeah, you better bring your sweater, but then you're going to have fun.
Yeah, and I think it's been really nice to see how the boutique has developed, because when it first opened, it really was just a small boutique on the ground floor, and that's now, you know, kind of expanded into effectively I think it's the 3 floors now you have in the building, so you have event space as well. And when the ProPilot X launch was done, I think that was a great event. You know, it was really interactive. You guys did something, again, quite different at that with the virtual reality goggles, which was good fun. Maybe not so good when you're really drunk, but yeah, it was good fun before we got drunk.
That's a fair point. I did not put on the VR goggles because I wasn't at that event in London, but we have done something with the VR here, and you know, I don't know that a significant amount of alcohol and VR goggles is a good mix.
I can tell you it's a terrible idea.
I agree.
Yeah. You know, it's like I love the ProPilot X, but I also have you know, bad memories too of just sailing drunkenly and out of control through the movement, and you know, I'm in therapy for that. I think it might be, you know, you have to kind of face your fears. I might just have to buy the watch to kind of get over this, but.
Yeah,
it's interesting to talk about. I had somebody the other day, a big IWC collector of all people, and asking me questions because he's taking the plunge because he loves the watch so much. So that is a fantastic piece. I don't know that the ProPilot collection really gets as much attention. I mean, the Diver 65 really seems to be the belle of the Oris ball these days. But you have a wonderful collection, really rounded.
I think it's interesting as well. A point you said earlier, Rolf, was, you know, it's a brand of everybody, and the thing is, you know, there's so many people who have such a wide range of taste in watches, brands, styles of watches, but nearly everybody I know that really sees themselves as a true kind of watch person has at least something Oris in their collection, or at the very least has something that they think, I'd quite happily have one of them. So there's so many people that, you know, fall into that kind of category. And I think it's also one that when you get into the brand, it's quite hard to not buy more of them.
What do you mean?
I'll not show the photo I sent you earlier.
No, he's got an entire watch box full of Oris that he sent me ahead of time, which I thought was quite funny. No, to your point though, like that's a thing I noticed about you know, RedBar members is there's a lot of love for Oris in the community. Like, you know, most of our collectors, at least in New York, either have an Oris in their collection or want an Oris in their collection, and none of them ever, like, people, I'll bring, you know, my watches to RedBar and people will pick them up and try them on, and I've, you know, all I ever hear from people is a love for those pieces. So to that point, I want to talk a little bit about the watch that we did with you guys, and James, I think, wants to talk about that, because you know, when we first started talking about it, you know, a lot of the ideas for what the piece would eventually look like, you know, came from James's thoughts about it. So I'd love to hear James kind of talk through what you felt the process was like, and how it was to work with it, and what you think of the end result.
Hey everybody, sorry for being a few minutes late. The analog part of my business is very real and for me in real life, but it's good to see you all. I hope you're all keeping safe and healthy, and thanks for including me. As most of us on-screen talking heads know, this was sort of my passion project a couple of years ago, was to bring out what was ultimately our second watch collaboration, but I prefer to think of it as the first, if for no other reason than we made enough of them for lots of people to get in on the action. And that was really, I think, a key element for me. And at the end of the day, it was the word I will use to describe the process was absolutely joyous. It was so much fun to do this, and really, not to take some of the magic sauce out, it was pretty easy. Working with you guys was just great. And I think the original concept of working with Oris started internally with Kathleen and Adam and I discussing doing another watch and doing a larger run of quantity for people to get in on it. And picking Oris really came down to the fact that, as has sort of been alluded to, Oris is an everyman's watch, but not in any negative connotation at all. It's very much a high quality luxury product, but it's luxury with a lowercase L. And that, I think that's reflected in the product, it's reflected in the marketing, and it's absolutely reflected in every interaction with the people behind the brand. VJ and Rolf in particular, working with you guys has always just been, it's been fun. So when we sort of decided to do this watch, it was frankly a pretty easy pick for us. We're gonna work with Oris if they'll have us, and we want to do a Diver 65 because it just has this amazing architecture. I want to say we were on the early front of some of the limited edition models, so it hadn't been overdone or anything, and it was a really cool idea that started with, I think, VJ and I talking fairly drunkenly at a RedBar New York gathering. As
sure about that?
Yeah, pretty sure.
There was alcohol involved in most of the conversations.
There's a running theme.
Yeah, there is. And
I
so
sense that.
from there, he said, yeah, look, I think it'd be a great idea. Why don't you sort of shoot us a design brief of what you're thinking, and we'll run it up the flagpole. And so Adam and Kathleen and I roundtabled it, but the things we really wanted to nail were no date, this size and dial design. We wanted to capture that sort of, I don't want to say Fotina, but a little bit of sort of neo-vintage character on the luminescent elements and on the indices. We knew we didn't want to date, and we knew we wanted to do a cool case back. And so we sort of threw that at VJ, as well as bringing Adam Moore in to mock up some things. The trickiest part, and probably the first really cool thing that happened, was picking the red. And we knew that we really had to be very careful with the shade of red that we used. I have this love of vintage vignette dials or fume dials, which sort of change as the dial, as it comes out in the dial, and sort of threw that at VJ, and Rolf said, well, can you do this? We're going to look. And the coolest thing that happened was that you actually had a dial this shade in your archive. And I mean, you pulled it together fast because you had it. It was in your history, which I think is so cool. And it was just a no-brainer. And so really in very short order, it went from drunken concept to actual concept to, all right, we're going to do this thing. And the wheels were in motion. And then the next sort of wonderful thing that happened was this was right before Basel World that year. And although they may throw down with us and whatnot, they're true consummate professionals and hadn't let the cat out of the bag on anything you were releasing that year at Basel, which of course was the bezel that you had introduced on your main line. And I'll never forget this moment, seeing the releases come from Basel that year, saying, oh my God, we can do, a bronze bezel on this thing, maybe. And I called VJ, right? VJ's on the floor at Basel. He takes my call. We're at the 11th hour. We're like a day or two away from the start of production of these things. VJ, can we do that on ours? Let me find out. Calls me back probably 6 hours later. I'm sure he's exhausted from working the whole day on the show floor. And he says, look, we can, but you got to tell me right now. And I said, do it. And then I called Adam and Kathleen and told them that I had made that unilateral decision.
Well, you know who I spoke to right away.
Oh, I do.
He's right there.
He's right there.
But
it's a very short chain here at Oris. So.
I think that's such a cool thing that, this is not a massive by committee process, that we were able to really take a passion driven design concept and make it a reality in I don't know, 90 days from original Drunken Conversation to the start of production with nothing but ease. I mean, an amazing, amazing experience, and being able to sort of make that a real thing. And then of course the watches were delivered later that year. It's a special thing that we did. And I'm very proud to have made my very small mark on that. And of course it was a riotous success when we launched it at the RedBar National Meetup before we moved global in Vegas that year.
And I think thinking about that project, you know, from the watch point of view, obviously the watch was beautiful. It was great. The design concept came together, but thinking about kind of making that product in collaboration with you guys, what it represented to us. You know, you were coming together with your national meetup. It was the first time, and we really saw that as like a thank you, as a nice way to put a project together, to look at it from not only the watch perspective, but the charitable part of it as well, to kind of contribute to the organization. And it was just a nice, you know, I look at when you talk about your membership and you talk about kind of our work with you guys, and, you know, we've been friends for a while and doing this, and, you know, you guys were always very receptive of us, and we felt very, you know, very much the same about you. And I thought it was just a really nice way to say, hey, this is a really good collaboration together, and thank you, and congratulations on your national, putting this all together, your growth, the whole thing. And I to me, that's what that project really meant in terms of, you know, kind of putting the whole thing together, and you know, and you guys, and our relationship to you guys, and your whole community of RedBar people throughout the world.
Well, you know, not blowing smoke, I don't know that there's another company we work with who have been as generous to our charitable elements as you have. I mean, from some of our high level things like this watch to, you know, you and your US team showing up at our Christmas party with jackets for our coat drive in the winter time for the New York City's homeless. Mm-hmm. I mean, really top to bottom, it's you guys are authentic and wonderfully genuine and generous people. And to that point, I'll let me just comment on the last sort of brilliant thing that came of this. And that is, without throwing ourselves under the bus, Adam and Kathleen.
Go ahead.
We like to think that this is a semi-professional organization.
It is, with the exception of me.
I don't want to give anything too bad away here, but we did this whole deal on a handshake, and that's the God's honest truth. And early on, when we're discussing the concept, you know, you guys had come to us and said, well, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to retail it and, you know, make some profit on it? And that's a very normal business thing to do. And we said, no. We really want to just, you know, get to our core values and raise some money. And you guys said, got it. So, well, what are you thinking? I remember the conversation. It was simply, whatever you feel is right at the end of this, let's just make it a good donation. And it was done on a handshake. And what you guys ended up doing and giving us $50,000 for the RedBar Fund from the proceeds of that watch completely astounded and floored all of us. It was way more than we thought we were going to be able to do with you. And the fact that it was done on a handshake and exceeded all expectations, I think sums it all up. And that money has been distributed in part to a number of organizations during this time in a wide range of areas of need. And it's an incredibly proud thing for me that you guys made possible. And of course, everybody who's watching and participating and bought the watch, this money is going to really, really special causes that we'll be spelling out, you know, in the coming months.
Yeah. And
yeah, you know, it's,
oh, sorry. I was just going to say, and I really, you know, like James said, we were pretty blown away by that donation to our charitable fund. And, you know, we obviously appreciate it. But what I really appreciate is that's the very first time that I was one of those big checks.
Yes. I love the big check.
Oh my God. I really wanted to get a video of us walking into a bank trying to cash the check. We never did that, but it was, you know, and like you said, you know, it was done on a handshake, the whole thing. I still remember, James, being in your office when this was first brought up. And and this was your old office, you know, the one that was upstairs. And you're right, from that moment to when the watches were delivered, it was as smooth as glass, the process. But with Oris, while I was definitely floored by the generosity, you know, again, you knew it was going to happen. You knew they were going to come through, because that's how VJ and Rolf roll. And it's also, I think, a testament to being an independent company. You know, it's not to say that other companies wouldn't want to work with us on this level or make it that easy, but they can't, because of the just all the layers of bureaucracy, and somebody's trying to cover their ass here or there. We need this signed, and there's a process. And with you guys, it's as simple as, yeah, fuck it, let's do this. This is a good idea. And because you're good guys, it's gonna happen. It's not just the sentiment is there, but we can't follow through. Everything you've done. Can we just make this whole thing just us just saying beautiful things about Oris? Like, can that just be it? Like, do we need to talk about anything else? I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, I would, so into that a little bit. I want to talk to VJ a little about the community aspect. So I think one of the things that seems to be kind of the running thread throughout this conversation is that you guys are you're very down to earth and very connected with the communities and the people that collect your pieces. Like, you know, I mean, look, there are other brands that do events with us and all of that stuff, but, you know, like, it's not often that the CEO of a you know, the global CEO of a company will come and just sit down and have beers with, you know, a group of people. So, but I know not only do we do that, you know, kind of in London and all around the US, but VJ, I know you've been attending a lot of the virtual meetups that our RedBar chapters have been doing, you know, now that we can't get together in person. So can you tell me a little bit about your experiences in both the sort of pandemic times with attending the local stuff here in North America, and then what you've been doing since we've been on lockdown?
Sure. And I mean, just to your point about our culture as a company, I mean, I think it just pervades, you know, all the way from the top down. Like, that's how we are as people, and we're independent, and, you know, we're allowed to be ourselves, and that's really the most important thing. And I think that's what's been kind of what it is. So, you know, that's the way we operate, and that goes from Rolf down to me, down to, you know, the rest of our group, and, you know, people you guys have all met. So, I mean, it's a pleasure to be in a company like that. So, and then with regard to the events, you know, as many of you know, and as many of you watching know, you know, we've done a lot of events with RedBar, and, you know, we've done events in New York, like most, but, you know, I think part of it and the importance of it is not just being in New York and, you know, where all the brands are and where, you know, everybody's in that area. It's really about you guys loving the product, and it's about trying to take our product and show other people and show people throughout, you know, the country and the world, the product. So it's not, you know, it's New York, it's Boston, it's Chicago, but it's also Birmingham, Alabama, and it's Minneapolis, and it's places like that. It's Vancouver. It's all the places that we've done events, and truly, that's, you guys are watch lover. You're watch lovers, and we're watch lovers, and we bring it out to you, and you guys are always appreciative and accepting of it, and always have great feedback. So it's a pleasure to do events with you guys wherever we are. It's always a pleasure. It's always laid back. It's down to earth, and it's appreciated. Now,
you and Kathleen did a little road trip, I think.
We did.
Yeah.
2 Septembers ago, we were in Madison and we were in Milwaukee, and yeah, that was good with the Bear, of course. So
The Bear.
we're running around.
Yeah.
But now sorry, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think I can echo that sentiment with the UK, because again, you know, like in the UK, London is very similar to New York in that all the brands are there and it's an easy place to do events. But, you know, with Oris, we've done events in Edinburgh and Birmingham and all, you know, all kind of more regional cities within the UK as well. So they're, you know, as a brand, I've always been happy to extend out from the obvious places and actually go and visit, you know, kind of people who can't get to London or aren't in London, and they move outside, and will happily take themselves to them, which is something that is definitely the rarity rather than the norm within the industry.
Yep.
Thank you. You know, and in this pandemic, we're all working from home, and you can see us all in our home offices and what have you. You know, we've tried to keep that connection. We've tried to, you know, because we like the connection just as much as you guys like the connection. So, you know, we've done a number of events now virtually through this mechanism, through Zoom. So, you know, Atlanta, Ottawa, we've done Houston, Kansas City, Dallas,
Love
Detroit, Austin, Milwaukee, St. Louis. Like, we've done a lot, and it's been great, and everybody's been very receptive. But it's community, right? It's all about community, and it's all about just connecting and keeping each other going and that sort of thing. And that's really what it is. And the beautiful part of it, it's while we're all like this, kind of tucked away, we can all get together very quickly, very easily, and here we are. So all of us are in the same room right now, so to say, and you know, we're all in 6 different places, and it's great. So it's been a real pleasure to do it. So thank you for having us, and thank you for allowing us to do that with your groups.
No, we really appreciate it. So to that community point, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I'll reiterate what I said at the very beginning. If you have questions for anybody on the panel, but specifically for Oris, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and I will pose those questions and get them answered. But I've got one for you guys. It said that they love what the brand is doing as far as connecting with the community. Are there any plans for a purple dial? Do you think that's a possibility? And are there any plans to bring more colors to non-limited editions of the current collections?
Well, in fact,
Purple.
we used to have a purple dial on a TT3 date, I think 2008 or so. It wasn't a tremendous success, to be honest. At the moment, there are no plans, but you never know. If a theme comes up, if we find something where a purple dial could make sense, this is something we could do. At the moment, no such plans. So if there's a theme that you guys think of that would a purple dial make sense, please tell us, and then we can see.
On that front, actually, that was what 2008 you said, so 12 years ago. Have you seen a change in consumers' tastes with, you know, things like brighter dials and stronger colours within collections compared to maybe 10, 12 years ago? Because obviously in your collection now, a lot of the limited editions are much stronger colours.
Well, certainly I think watch buying and watch collecting has changed in these years, right? A few years ago, it was much more a thing that you had to have. You wanted to wear a watch. Now it's much more a piece that must make you smile at the end. That's really how we operate. Our watches must make people smile, and that's a killer for a project in Holstein. If we develop a watch and somebody at the table says, it doesn't really make me smile, that can kill a project. And I think watches are more fun than they used to be 10 years ago. I think hanging out with watch people is more fun than it was 10, 15 years ago. I think the whole industry changed. That development from exclusive luxury to inclusive luxury, not making people envious of what you have or what you do, but include people in what you do, and share emotions about the objects that you have, and share these objects themselves. I think that has changed a lot, and of course it has helped our brand very much, because that's who we are. And I think it also has influenced watch design. For example, bronze watches. That really was a total outsider thing until a few years ago, because it would just not have been possible to sell on a broader scale a watch that changes the surface of its case, right? It was just a no-go. You couldn't have sold it in Asia. You couldn't have sold that in many parts of Europe. And now it's a big hit. So I think these changes that we see there from a mental point of view, they affect watch design very much. And I think you see it from our dials, you see it from some of our cases. So you see it from Diver 65. stuff like that. So yeah, I think it has an influence.
I think it's funny actually on that story about the bronze cases. Actually, your story, I have the same bronze Diver 65 as you have, which you obviously wear a lot, and I am self-admittedly massively OCD. Everything has to be perfect, and I remember meeting you in London, and let's just say yours maybe isn't so perfect anymore. And I remember you reciting the story about how it was your memories from being on holiday and being on the beach. And that day I decided to let mine just, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's perfect. I have now let mine do what it does. And I'm not going to lie, it takes a lot of willpower to stop me polishing it, but I have let it be. And actually, you know, as many people will attest, every watch has to have a story for me. And now the story of it's my only watch that I let not be perfectly clean.
Okay.
So speaking of that, there's another question in the Q&A about what made you choose to use bronze as the component in the watches. You know, because when you did do that, it wasn't common. I think there's a lot more sort of bronze being used nowadays. But was the genesis of that the Carl Brashear project, like the reason that you guys chose bronze in the first place?
Yeah, we launched the material for our collection with the first Carl Brashear, the one that I just showed. And it made a lot of sense with that theme. And we also, liked the idea of that material getting its patina. But, you know, when you think back, it's really funny. At that time, we had a huge discussion. What do we do with the clasp, for example? Do we need to add a stainless steel pin buckle because people may get irritations from the bronze pin buckle? Yes, we did. We had a big warning on the package that this watch will change surface because it's bronze. And just 2 years later, that was all gone. Second Carl Brashear, no more steel buckle, no more warnings, because people are just got used to that in a very short time.
So there's another question on the same theme. Will we see a third Carl Brashear diver, or at least another full bronze piece? And I know you might not be able to comment on future pieces, but that's what somebody is asking. So.
Well, never say never. Yes, obviously I can't give an answer here now. You want to find the balance between, you know, doing things right and answering customers' demands. So never say never.
Okay. We have another.
But look at that shit-eating grin. Just look at it.
It's just that's your. I like the coy answer. So we have another question from our Ottawa chapter. Any plans to do a regular production Diver 65 with no date in the future? Again, you know, I know you have some caveats about what you can talk about that's coming up. And there's a follow-on question about power reserves, whether you are going to do something for larger power reserves outside the 100 series of movements. So it's kind of a two-part question, but let's take the production Diver 65 with no date first. Yeah,
that's a request we quite often get from people who are into watches. We then discussed it again. We just had that discussion it's a few weeks ago in Hülstein, and yeah, I wasn't happy with the decision we took, but we said it's just not really going beyond these enthusiast circles. So at the moment, no, unfortunately, I say, from my own taste, you see now that the Momotaro has no date. Limited editions sometimes have no date. Production pieces that need to appeal to a lot of people, because as you know, we only can do this quality for that price by making a certain quantity of watches. Production pieces at the moment will have a date.
Okay, and then do you have any plans for increasing power reserves outside of the smaller series of movements that you have that already have a longer power reserve?
We have that 10-day nonlinear power reserve indication, our caliber 110 plus. The latest edition, as you know, is caliber 115, the skeleton version of the watch. Yes, we have plans for power reserve, maybe in a bit different way than you all may expect. It will take a moment, but I am pretty sure you're going to like it.
That's exciting. Okay, we've got another question, and this is for both of you, Rolf and VJ. What got you started with Oris? So, Rolf, why don't you take that first, and then
VJ, you go first. Come
on. Someone I was working with was working with Oris, and I met Rolf one afternoon. We had a nice conversation in the Palazzo Hotel for a couple hours, and yeah, we that's how I started with Oris. It was somebody had said something to me, and the company was going through transition, and we Rolf and wanted to start a subsidiary in the US, and that's where I came in. So it's been 10 years, Rolf. 10 years this year. And yeah, that's how I first came into it. But you know, Rolf and I our relationship, I mean, we hit it off pretty well, I think, the first time we met, and I think that's carried through all these years. And I think, you know, it's also one of the things we love about working together and just being together, just that relationship. So and being allowed to be ourselves, as I said before. So
yeah, well, actually, Jay, I never told you that story. The full truth the full truth was that you were the only one of these candidates who could during these interviews who could properly do a P&L, and you looked like a guy who could take some beers. So, you know,
there it is.
I thought, yeah, that could be a good fit. Yeah, in fact, it was a very good fit, and we have had great times together, working, not working, and well, actually, most of them somewhere in between, right?
Yep.
Mixing it all up, and yeah, they were good and interesting 10 years, really. And yeah, VJ really made Oris in the US what it is now, and contributed so much to where we stand in that large market. When we opened the subsidiary, which was the moment when we hired VJ, we had a lot of respect because things were not going the way we wanted. It's a difficult period. Our distributor was suffering from the 08-09 financial crisis, too much stock and so on. And everybody in the industry knows that it's very difficult to start up the US as a market because it's so big and you need so much money. And we are Oris, so you know, we have to see how we invest our money. And yeah, we didn't have that much money, but we worked a little harder. And well, especially VJ and his team did. And yeah, look at where we are now. And it's really nice to see where we have gotten in these years. And yeah, it makes me very proud to see what we have achieved and the community relations we have, and that we can be here now and have this discussion. Yes, that's because VJ invested 10 years working very hard and doing the right things. So yeah, thank you, VJ.
Thank you, Rolf. I had a lot of help from that gentleman, so don't let him think it was only me. So it was not, and it was all of us and our team and everybody. So thank you to everybody involved. So especially Rolf.
Great.
So,
we have another question, and I think this one is going to be a little harder to answer, but let's ask it anyway. As an independent company, what are Oris's thoughts on what's happening with Baselworld right now? And I think, you know, before you guys answer this, I think, you know, the landscape of the watch trade show industry was already changing and already in flux before this crisis happened, and I think that has kind of the pandemic has, of course, accelerated some of the change that was already happening. So, you know, I know that, there's still decisions being made by MCH Group and all of that as to what the future of Baselworld will hold. But, if you guys could comment as an independent company who's not part of a big group, what are your thoughts about not just Basel, but just sort of the shows going forward?
It really saddens me that these things are happening as they did, and it is very unfortunate that Baselworld and their key exhibitors couldn't agree on a way forward. We all had great times at Basel. VJ and I had have some great memories to our time in Basel. I have great memories of some of you guys here. It was a great show, and to me, I think it's important that the Swiss watch industry has one show that reflects the whole industry. And it's not just a brand show, but reflects on the whole of the industry. And that's what Basel was. And I regret that this is not going to happen anymore, that Baselworld, as we know it, is a thing of the past. And yeah, it's somewhat ironic that the brands who are now going, yeah, some of them also asked for change, right? So let's see what's going to happen in Geneva, just to move the whole thing to Geneva without a change in concept. I'm not sure what the worth of that will be, but each brand has to make the decision for themselves. That's also what we do. We look at situation now. We don't really know what's the future concept of Baselworld is going to be. We don't yet know what the concept of Geneva is. There are other possibilities to interact with your community, as we saw this afternoon when we, for the first time, launched Watch directly to the community in an interactive way. So, as it is with this crisis, the good thing is that everything is on the table, and you have just a white sheet of paper, and you can take it from there. And now we need to have we need to get all the facts together, and then we will make a decision. But as a member of this industry and of this community, I just it saddens me that this industry event, as we had it, from micro brands to the biggest players to dial manufacturers to just everyone being in the same place, is not going to take place anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I think that there's an opportunity, and there's some, there's an opportunity to kind of be more directly connected. I mean, you guys, again, obviously are directly connected with the community, but that you were able to do a launch today that was directly to consumers and talking directly to them is a new thing that the industry really isn't used to doing. And I think so there's an opportunity on the table here for new and exciting ways to connect with maybe even people that you have not connected with before, that don't know what Baselworld is maybe necessarily. And so there's I think the whole industry has an opportunity here to kind of change the way that it interacts with end consumers. There's a lot that could happen, especially since now we're all learning how to connect with each other virtually. There's I think there's a world of possibilities out there.
Yeah.
I have one other person commented, the person who asked about purple dials. They said you could do mental health awareness as a charity focused watch, and purple would be that color purple is associated with that. So that's more of a suggestion for you guys, but I just wanted to mention that. And then there's one other question before we wrap up. Would Oris ever consider hosting a small show themselves in Switzerland in the future where they release their new pieces? I mean, you said things on the table, so maybe.
Well, in fact, that's one of the things we also were thinking about. It would be called Holstein World. The beauty about Baselworld was that everybody was together, and half of the cost of Baselworld to me was paid for by us as a team being together. You know, the whole Oris family was together, and we weren't just having a big conference somewhere in a hotel. It could be in Miami or Dubai, or it doesn't really matter. But you were there, and you were working together. And the ones of you who have been there, you know, you have a beer, you just hang out, you see the teams from the other countries, and with us just doing a show ourselves, you just wouldn't have this audience. So yes, it's also something we think about, but then maybe it would be smarter to do more local events where you can have a larger part of the community together in a more local fashion. Yeah, but this is all on the table, so yeah, give us some time and we'll figure it out.
Okay, and then I think we had one other question very early on in the comments, which was someone wanted to know about the design decision that went into the new piece with the denim strap. If you could talk about that, how that collaboration came about, and what led to the choices for that that strap.
And also, if you could just hold that watch up again so people can see that dial, because it really is gorgeous.
Very pretty.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm really in love with this watch, and I am really so fond of this partnership with Momotaro, with Katsu, his father, and the whole team there. Well, we were in Japan, and I remember the moment we were in a train in Japan, and we said, we really need a contemporary theme to honor Japanese culture and Japanese traditions. And it was very soon, it was very clear we want to do something with Japanese denim. And we then found Momotaro, and the connection just worked out immediately. These people, they are an independent company like we are. It's the father who founded it, the son who now runs it. They focus on quality, they focus on craft, and as we are, they're just, you know, common sense people, hardworking, making a difference with their brand. And it just was, to me, yeah, really enriching to see how we had the same way of approaching things, of thinking, and being from totally different cultures, Japan and Switzerland. And we went there. One of our designers came with us, and he proposed a few dials. We had this one as one of, I think, about 5 or 6 prototypes. And very quickly, it was clear that we wanted to have the watch like that. That it would have to be a strap out of Momotaro denim was clear also, and that's what it is. Here you see the inner lining, which is the same lining as the leather patch on the back of the jeans. And we decided on that style color, then, to be honest, backed up a little bit because we thought maybe it's a little bold. Maybe let's be a little bit more conservative. Let's try with blue. Let's try with, you know, some more subtle colors. We thought, no, that's it. It looks good. It's cool. Let's do it. And we did it, and that's it. And we launched it today.
I love it. That's really, really cool. Well, awesome. I think we're at the top of the hour, so we'll wrap this up. But thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate it. We appreciate, you know, kind of, you know, the brand in general, but that you guys are so connected with our collector community. So again, thank you so much for your time, and we will have this recording up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys. Be safe.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you
Thank you very
soon.
much. Take care.
All right.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.